Hello, my name is Fernando Garcia. This is my fiscal plan for the EDU 528 class. So here we go. The budget model being followed. So I have the combination budgets because there was only two options and both of them were combination. But I picked the one with the zero-based budget and also the externally funded budget. But that was in both. For the zero-based budget, there is no reference for previous years, and the proposal needs to be justified. So I need to go into the Board of Education and say, hey, this is how much I need, why I need it. So boom, that's it. Easy, easy, easy. For the externally funded, you have to make sure that the fundraisers are appropriate. So if you live in a let's say if you live in a poor part of a state or of a city or whatever it may be, and you have really expensive things, then no one's gonna buy them. Same thing. You gotta make sure that it is appropriate, doesn't offend anybody, and that people are gonna use it. A lot of people think that there are two schools of thought on externally funded. The external funding is a way of life. That means everybody knows that it's coming, everybody's okay with it, and that is the only way to get externally funded money or money from outside sources. The other one is that major fundraising becomes part of the culture. For this one, it was a kind of a big thing for me. Whenever I was in middle school, we would always sell trash bags, and people would be really looking forward to buying those trash bags because they're really good. And whenever people were running low, they would be asking around, oh hey, when are we gonna have the new trash bags? I really need some more. I'm about to run out. So why I picked these ones? Just zero-based budgets. Going back to the Dark Knight Rises, I believe, and it's Harvey Dent. He flips a coin over to Rachel, and he says, "I make my own luck." And this is kind of exactly what I just explained earlier. You go into the Board of Education and you tell them, hey, this is how much I need it. So you have to be really good at presenting, you have to be ready, and you have to make a compelling argument. So this is all on you. The other option was the looking at other years and seeing kind of how much you spend on that. But let's say you have a really big spending coming up, and they just won't give you that much money because that's not how much you spent last year. And then externally funded things, fundraising and boosters clubs. Those are the biggest things. Like I said earlier, fundraising has to be appropriate. You have to cater to the fans, something that the community will like, something that they will need. And then the boosters club, this kind of hits big for me because my boosters club, soccer boosters club back in high school, was a really close-knit community. They really did a lot of stuff for us. We got a lot of cool stuff. We had to keep some jerseys. They would always make senior posters, and we were always kind of looking forward for that. My mom was pretty involved in that, so I kind of know how they ran things, and I thought it was a pretty neat thing. They helped out with fundraisings for our own, and they did the concession stands and all that stuff. So it was a really cool thing that they were doing. Purpose of the program. So what I want my program to be, it is the best opportunity to our students. Whether it's having enough money to run programs, that way we're not taking the opportunity away from the kids, and we also need to have enough equipment or enough money to provide safe equipment, especially for like football. It's a very equipment heavy sport, and a lot of stuff is going down with concussions and all that fun stuff. So we want to make sure that we have the best equipment for our kids. Same thing with turf. I have heard of departments or schools that have a really bad turf, and they tend to have a lot of injuries, a lot of ACL tears, and that is not what we want. We want to have the kids give the kids the best opportunity possible for their time here at our high school. The other thing is keeping students focused and excelling outside the classroom. So there's been a lot of studies saying that, in sports helps with other time management and they're going to be more successful going outside of the classroom or outside of high school, going on to college. So here I put character, social IQ, and academics, because that is very important. I need to make sure that that is first and foremost. So I don't want a bunch of jerks running around on the field, right? I want to have good sportsmanship. I want to make sure that they're nice, they have good character, they are honest people. Social IQ, they're going to be interacting with a lot of their teammates. If they don't have a sport, they're probably going to go home, play Xbox or PlayStation, and they're going to be just not have a lot of human contact, and that can hurt them in the long run. Academics, they need a certain GPA to stay active or to stay eligible. So we would really focus on the academics. And after all, they are student athletes, not athlete students. The next thing of why I need enough money to run my program is to pay the coaches. If the coaches aren't getting paid as much as they think they should be getting paid, they're not going to try that hard. They need to be compensated for all of the hard work, and they say, hey, if I'm getting this much money, I need to make sure that my kids are having the best possible opportunity, and they're going to go above and beyond and excel in what we ask them to, and do things for the program or for the kids, and really take a lot of time and effort to their sports. How I would control the cost of programs. The first thing would be restriction on travel. I know here in Columbia, mid-Missouri, there's not a lot of schools nearby as there would be in St. Louis or Kansas City. I know Rockbridge travels quite a bit. A lot of times they go to St. Louis, and that adds up, right? We looked at our stuff. With a transportation budget, I use Eldon. That's another school down by the lake, and they travel a lot, and it ended up being pretty expensive. So that's the biggest thing. Have limited trips. I know whenever I was in high school, we went to St. Louis one time to play against two high schools. We also went to Springfield one year. So we need to limit those to about one a year. The cool thing was that one year we went to Springfield, and the next year they came to the Kickapoo and Glendale, I believe, came to Kansas City to play against us. So we can kind of flip-flop each year. Those are cool trips I will definitely remember. Then big expenses, that turf lasts X amount of years. So plan ahead. Start saving up for whatever you need. Have a wish list of things that you need, and kind of start putting money aside, and only buy what's necessary. If you can get the same thing, just a little bit older, or like a lesser model that does pretty much the same thing as something else, then go ahead and get that. We don't need to be over the top, right? We don't have that much money being a public school to be able to afford all that nice stuff. It'd be cool to have a nice stuff, but if it's really over the top, then we don't really need it. Basically, it's a philosophy on seeking outside funding. So obviously, the first one is going to be fundraising. We could do a school-wide fundraiser where you can kind of know and talk to the community, saying, hey, what do you guys like? What would you like? What do you need? What would be a good fundraiser for you guys? Like I said, the trash bags were a big hit. Everybody wanted to buy trash bags. So kind of things like that, things that are going to be pretty cheap as well, and that are going to be good quality and are going to be helpful for everybody. The other one would be Boosters Club. They will raise money for their own team. So the fundraiser, if we do a school-wide fundraiser, that money will be for the athletic department we'll talk about this in a little bit. But the other thing was the Boosters Club. They raised money for their own teams. They can do concessions, merchandise. They can do their own fundraisers. And again, those need to be appropriate, and the head coach needs to approve them. If he has any questions, then he can come to me and I can approve them. And the last thing would be corporate sponsors. So local businesses and all that stuff, they are always trying to look for advertisements. And you can always put advertisements on the programs. You can put advertisements around the field. and you can kind of put them on their website and all over the place. So that'd be a good way to give back to the people that are doing a lot for you, and get a little bit of extra money, or get some free stuff. Maybe Under Armour has their headquarters in your high school, and they're gonna be your sponsor. Guess what? Maybe they can give you some discounted Under Armour gear. They could maybe do large equipment. So maybe they can pay for a big scoreboard, or a field, or some bleachers, or whatever it may be, and then just make sure that you put the sponsor's name right there and say, hey, thank you so much for this. This was donated by whoever it was. We also have the giveaways. They can have giveaways at the beginning of the games. So like, I know in my high school we did little footballs during the football game, and they had printed on there whoever's company was the sponsor for that night, or even if maybe they're a pen company, you give out pens or something silly like that, or something that people might use, just like in the pros. It's like first 500 people get whatever. So those are some good ways to have outside funding. So this is how I would deal with the monies that would be coming in. So if it's a booster club money, the athletic director and the coach will choose what to spend the money on, but it will be designated to only that sport. So if the football team comes up with X amount of money, I'm not going to take that money and spend it on soccer and softball. I'm going to spend it on the sports wish list, maybe some uniforms, some new equipment, or whatever it may be, but it will be decided from the athletic director and the head coach about what they need most. That way the boosters clubs don't spend money on what they think, because they're not down in the day-to-day operations. Already kind of talked about the corporate sponsors, but if we were to get money from them, as much as, well, no, the AD and the coaches will determine what to spend the money on. This money will be spent on as many people as we can. So if we have a soccer field / football field, that's 3, and with a track around it, that's 4 sports that we can impact. So maybe we can do resurface our track, or resurface our field, maybe get a scoreboard or get some lighting on the field. But we're not gonna just put it all in one sport. They fundraise, or they give us money. Same thing with the fundraising. If it's a school-wide fundraiser, it's gonna be dealt with the coaches, all of the coaches, and the athletic director. And then the corporate sponsors can choose where to spend their money if it is some sort of equipment. So if they want to help us out with a scoreboard, then they can kind of pick which scoreboard they want. But most of the times they're not gonna come up to me and be like, hey, can we sponsor a baseball scoreboard? Most times we're gonna have to go out there and be like, hey, we have a sponsor opportunity for you guys. Would you like to help with this? So we shouldn't really worry about that. And then as far as donations go, as much as I hate this, the athletic department will choose what to spend their money on. I know it makes it tough. I know William Woods has kind of struggled with that a little bit, because the sporting, or the alumni that played sports that wanted to have the money go towards sports, they didn't have a say, so maybe a lot of people didn't donate. But with that said, I didn't want, like, hey, I only want this X amount of money to go to football, baseball, whatever it may be, and then all the other sports have really crappy facilities. That's going to look really bad on us. It's going to create a lot of tension within the school. If they want to donate to the athletic department, we will take it. It won't be for the school. It will be only for athletics, but again, it will have to impact as many students as possible, or what needs the most attention. So if there's something that's unsafe, we would probably spend that, even if it's only for one sport. Program expansion. I'm going to take a page out of Dave Ramsey, and he says that always have an emergency fund. So he says to always have $1,000 just in case of emergency, and once you use that money, all the money that you're saving should go to that emergency fund until it reaches $1,000. Obviously, $1,000 is not going to cut it to create a brand new program, but you can have something among those lines where you have a certain amount of money already set aside just in case a sport needs to be opened up. Obviously, if you just open up a new sport, you're probably going to wait a little bit longer to open up a different one. So just be smart about how you do that. We just had the new program assignment, so we can look at all those numbers. We also need to be surveying emerging sports around the area. So club sports, I know lacrosse is slowly getting big. Whenever I was in high school, rugby was getting big around the Northland area. There was a big club sport, and that was kind of the big topic there. They haven't had I guess it kind of stopped growing or something, but my high school does not have a rugby team yet. But you can always check and see, hey, maybe in Columbia there's a lot of soccer teams, so we need to get a soccer team. Maybe nearby schools, if you are the only school around the area that doesn't have a sport, you can probably get that sport going. So you kind of know where it's going. And also national trends, right? We always talked about, a couple years ago, soccer was the largest growing sport. One of our classmates, he had, I believe it was a lacrosse presentation. He said that lacrosse is now the largest growing sport. So you can kind of take that into account, like, hey, lacrosse is kind of growing. We should look into getting a team. How much would that cost? Hey, cool, we already have some money set aside. Let's go ahead and do that. The guidelines for the fundraising, obviously be respectful. You are providing a service after all, so you can't just be a total jerk like you have to buy this, otherwise I'm never coming back. You obviously will not be able, as a student, will not be able to trade for other things. So you can only get monetary benefits from that, and they have to go to the school, obviously. So you can't just say, hey, if I sell you my trash bags, you can give me an Xbox 360 or whatever it may be. You also cannot keep the money, right? The money is the school's property. You're just helping out the school. So you can't just make a profit for yourself and sell all the trash bags and then you keep the money. In order to keep that pretty straightforward without having to lose track of a lot of numbers, checks need to be payable to the athletic program. They can't be made out to myself and then I go back to school and give them a big check for all of the money that I owed. That's just gonna be kind of shady, kind of murky. So they need to make sure that all the checks are payable to the school. Same thing with, like, if now with the Apple Pay or Venmo, and I don't know what Google or Chrome have, but it is a lot easier to transfer money like that. That needs to be made out to the school. So I think the school should have maybe a Venmo account or some sort of Apple Pay, and that way the people or the community can give the money to the school directly without having to deal with a whole bunch of stuff. So it might be a little bit more work for the administration, but I think in the long run it's going to be, hey, it looks cool, right? A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you can pay through your phone with that technology era that we're living in, and also it's going to be a lot easier just for the kids with that to not be having to carry around that much money or money in their pockets and having to keep track of all of that. So that is all I have for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time.